Welcome to Click This, a conversation about how you can convert visitors to your website into prospects for your business. My name is Lorraine Ball, and my company, Roundpeg, specializes in inbound marketing and working with companies to develop great landing pages as well as the follow-up conversations that move those prospective customers through the sales funnel until they say yes to doing business. We're going to start today's conversation by talking about landing pages. Landing pages for your website are really where the magic happens. This is where you have an opportunity to begin a conversation with a prospective customer. But it only works if you really think about who you want to talk to. Because landing pages can't be generic. You can't be offering a saltine cracker to everyone who's hungry, because some people want a steak and some people are going to want something sweet. And so as you think about your business, you need to think about solving a specific problem. You need to think about a specific solution for a segment of your market. Customers like this come to us looking for something. And on this landing page, I'm going to offer them that specific solution. The more narrow you focus, the more likely you're going to be to hit a real nerve and hit a real pain point with a prospective customer. And these days, everyone is doing it. This particular chart is from a study that Unbounce did about a year ago. And they looked at, by industry, the average conversion rates and the very best conversion rates. And so in the travel industry, there's high interest, and you might see as high as 25% of people who come to a landing page looking for information willing to trade an email address and contact information for whatever the travel site is offering. It is harder to get people in the home improvement or legal communities to say yes to an offer. But even in those industries, we see there is consistent conversion. And so everyone is kind of in this game. What it means is pretty much every website you land on these days, they're serving up something and saying, hey, if you want this, you have to do this. And so on the one hand, people are getting used to it. On the other hand, sometimes they're a little tired. And so you have to be more compelling to get them to go, oh, yes, I will click, download, and trade my email address. Because that's really what this is about. Your landing page is a place where you propose an exchange. We will give you, Mr. or Mrs. Visitor, something that you want. It might be a free trial. It might be an information guide. And in exchange, we want something from you. We want the ability to contact and follow up with you. So here's a form. You get what you want. We get what we want. In order for this to work, you have to make a valuable offer. You really have to give people something that they go, yeah, I want that. And so as you're thinking about your business, you need to think about, well, what can you trade? And it can be something like this, a white paper. In exchange for contact information, you're going to get these resources. If you're in a home improvement business, maybe a guide to how to buy your products. Particularly if you're selling high-end home services, people don't buy those products very often, and they're looking for information. You can trade industry data, survey results, how-to guides, if there are lots of different ways to use your product. In more professional industries, case studies and examples of businesses that are working with you or using your solutions might be worth a trade. White papers, resource lists, scorecards and checklists. People love this stuff. They want to know, how do I rank against other people like me? Or lists that they can download where they can kind of feel like they're doing it themselves. Now, the trick with all of these things that you're trading is that you're not giving them all the answers. Whatever you offer as a download, you really want to make sure that you leave people wanting more. And how do they get more? Well, they call you. Collections are another one of my favorite strategies for downloads. Here you can take a series of blog posts or tools that you put together and offer them in exchange for an email address. Yes, people can search all through your website and find all of this information, or you can make it easy and just give it to them right there. What else? You can invite people to sign up for discounts and special offers, for product previews or invitations to special events. You can offer to add people to a VIP list so that they get announcements of when new products come in or when you're going to be running a sale, or offer them a discount that only they can get if they're on the list. You can also have podcasts and webinars and calculators. Calculators are awesome in, we used to use them a lot in heating and air conditioning, where people can put in some numbers and sort of calculate what it might cost. Or mortgage companies and banks do this a lot with mortgage rate calculators or interest rate calculators. And it's a very simple process, only a few numbers, but it works really well. And free trials, offering people an opportunity to put the toe in the water and find out what it's like to use your product or do business with you. One thing though, as you're building your landing pages and thinking about what it is you're going to offer, you want to make sure that there is an immediate payoff. I don't really like the designs of either of these two landing page or buttons very much, but I will tell you that the first one, that this one on the right really nails it. Grow enough food to feed a family of 4 in just 4 square feet of space, even if you don't have a yard. Get instant access. It is a very specific offer and a very compelling message. Get instant access. Okay, so all I have to do is put in my email address and I'll get everything I need. Contrast this to get free updates and my 20-week e-course. Oh my God, it's going to take me 20 weeks to get all your information. I haven't got time for that. What I would recommend instead, and how I would change this, is I would do a free 5-week e-course. And then for anyone who makes it through the first 5 weeks, I'll offer the second and the third. Or maybe, here's an idea, offer the second at a nominal fee and the third at another nominal fee. Why? Because now you've kind of got them in the groove, they're enjoying the content, and maybe you'll make a little bit of money along the way. You want to lead visitors to yes, and one of the ways that you do that is with your design. Now, I know that this says the perfect landing page, and I'm going to be honest with you. There isn't one perfect landing page. There are lots of different approaches and different ways depending on the business you're in, depending on how much explanation your product or service really requires. But let's look at a couple of examples. The things that are consistent across the board are some of these key elements. A single purpose. No matter whether you have a very simple product or a very complex product, a good landing page has only one purpose. And it's really hard because sometimes you drive someone to your website and you think, but I've got them and maybe they're not going to want this, and so maybe I should offer them this and this. Not on a landing page. On your landing page, stick to the one thing they came for. You want to have a great headline that really pulls them in and speaks to their pain. You can't do that if you're not laser focused on a specific problem for a specific audience. You want to have a compelling image. Your call to action button needs to be big and kind of in their face. You want to have a little bit of text that sort of sells it. Maybe a testimonial and then a sign-up form. I love this landing page. I think these guys do a really good job. There's a clear headline. I know exactly what this is about. I'm going to get more phone leads with AdWords, okay? I want phone leads. I use AdWords. I'm kind of interested. And all I have to do is give you my email address. Sold. It's got a fun picture. This particular product doesn't need a lot of details. You either want it or you don't. Your call to action needs to be prominent, and it needs to be pretty high up on the page. It should be a strong, contrasting color so you really can see it. Now, this particular example, there are a lot of things I like here and a few things I don't agree with. I'm not crazy about a lot of distracting links up at the top of the page. I think a strong landing page is important. I think this is good placement for the testimonial. I think that main element, the idea that you've got a prominent call to action right here, is important. I like the big picture. I think they've done a good job with here's the key benefit, and now some takeaways. They didn't necessarily go down the road of a testimonial, but they're telling you pretty clearly, if you download, this is what you're going to learn. A few more design tips. Limit your navigation. When somebody comes to a landing page, you really kind of want to make sure that there's no way out. And by that I mean they came for a reason. Now grab them and make them give you their contact information. Use testimonials and benefits, and if you have a good call to action button up top, you can also have another one down at the bottom. Having your logo at the top of the page is great because most people know that if they click on the logo, it's going to take them back to the home page. But by presenting it with no other navigation, it makes it pretty clear this is why they've came. I also really like the idea of putting a video here instead of just an image to help sell it. An example of what this could look like here. You've got some very specific things that you'll learn, and here's a nice way to present testimonials. One of the things that I really like is the directional cue. So you have this information and this points right to the button. It makes it really obvious where you need to go to get what you came for. And while I'm thinking about directional cues, really look at the layout of your page and really look at how you're driving people to your action box. Think about using contrasting colors. See how the big open sign is in red and then the download button. Encapsulate that form. Make it jump off the page a little bit. And don't be afraid to use a little bit of white space to give people a place to catch their breath on the way to filling out your form. And before we leave this specifics of design and layout, I want to put this idea in your head, and I want to make sure it stays there. 50% of the traffic to your website comes from mobile devices. While that number may vary a little bit, it's pretty much across the board. We are living in a mobile environment. And so as you're designing your landing pages and your submission forms, remember that people are going to be interacting with those pages on their phones. And so as you think about the page, have a specific format in mind, but also think about how that format is going to present on a telephone. I love this example. It's a very simple form, and it converts really nicely to mobile. And so, let's switch over and now talk about the form themselves. And the rule is that the less you ask for, the more you're likely to get. You really need to focus on asking for what you absolutely have to have in order to continue the conversation. Because we know that you will see a 5% dip in your conversion results if you ask for a phone number. Now, if you absolutely need a phone number, go ahead and ask for it. But if you know in your heart of hearts that you're collecting that information, but 9 times out of 10, you're not going to call the people, don't ask them to give you a phone number. There's a 2% conversion dip if city and state are requested. Do you really need to know where someone is? Now, if you are running a very geographically constrained business, absolutely. But if you're working nationally, you don't need to know that on the first form. And 4% conversion dip if street address is requested. And so as you're designing your form and you're thinking about fields that you want to include, how many employees, how many this, how many that, remember that every time you ask something, there is a corresponding dip in your conversion. So what do you really need? The form on the left for ProBlogger subscribers, they want as many people as possible. And so they ask for a first name and an email. And I love this. Yes, please. No, thanks. So it's not just that you're submitting. It's, yes, I really want the information that you're offering. Now, conversely here, the offer is more specific. Get your free Facebook ad evaluation. On the left, this is going to run automatically once the button is submitted. But there's some work involved here. You're not going to be able to just have a computer generate an ad evaluation. And so in this instance, they've actually asked for a little bit more information. They actually want to discourage people because if you're not really serious, they don't want to bother following up, and they can only afford to do a limited number of these anyway. So by having extra fields, they actually will narrow down and specifically reach people who are most likely to value their service. As you're designing your form, keep things simple, keep them clean. Left align your column. Go for single column. We used to see a lot of conversion forms that had 2 columns. Well, again, if you're in mobile, that whole thing becomes a cluttered mess. So just go ahead and design it. Really simple. Keep the questions clear. Sometimes I've seen questions on forms that I'm not quite sure what they're asking for. And if people are not sure what you're asking for, they're either not going to fill it out or they're going to give you the wrong information. And this last point, smart error handling. If you have a really short form, it's not a problem, but how many times have you filled out a longer form and you got all the way to the bottom and you hit enter and it takes you up to the top and it says, you have a mistake. but it doesn't tell you where the mistake is. Or worse yet, it wipes out some of the data when it bounces you back to the top. The point is that you want to make sure that you do as little as possible to frustrate your visitors. So keep your error handling smart. Okay. Button style. Think about using contrasting colors when you create your buttons. You want them to stand out in contrast to other information on the page. Ideally, that button should be at least 1/3 of the width of the form, and a little subtle movement is not bad. You know how sometimes when you roll over a button and it kind of jumps a little bit? That actually attracts people's attention. And you can have maybe subtle movement, or you can actually have a color change as people roll over it. And don't be afraid, if you really want to get someone's attention, to go big and really make an impact. As you're thinking about colors, obviously you want to choose colors that work with your brand. But think about some of these things as well. Yellow tends to be associated with fun and optimism. Red is both good and bad. It is associated with sales. It does tend to create a sense of urgency and increased heart rate, but it also is associated with stop signs. So I am not as big a fan, unless the red is really part of your branding, to add red buttons. Blue is typically associated with trust and security. That's why almost every bank and a lot of the established Wall Street firms, the blue chip firms, have blue logos, because that color is associated with trust and security. Green tends to be associated with wealth and relaxation, and it's also a really easy color to process online. And so a green button actually will work very well. Orange is my favorite go-to color for calls to action, getting people to subscribe or buy. It really tends to, again, pull the eye. It's usually not a color that's used a lot of other places on the website, so it's really active. Black tends to be associated with luxury marketing. It's a power color. It can be, actually, on a white page, very dramatic. I love black and white photography, and typically if I'm designing a high-end service page, I will use black and white photography and then lay a colored button over it. Light pinks tend to be girly and feminine and very soft. I don't typically like pinks for calls to action unless it is a very vibrant pink. And with purple, lavenders and the softer shades of purple tend to be soothing and calm. The really dark shades of purple are actually often a women's power color, and so buttons, particularly on sites for women's products and services, a dark purple button actually will be very compelling. When you're developing your calls to action, you want to keep them short, 1 to 3 words. Register now, grab the kit, click now. And when you're designing your button, and this is not just my preference, there's actually a lot of research that says you want to go all caps. So click now, not click now. This is hard for me because I tend to like lowercase. Obviously, look at my logo. We're a lowercase brand. And so we really struggled with this, but I read a lot of research that shows that people are significantly more likely to actually act if you use all caps. To me, it feels like you're yelling at them a little bit, but if you're trying to get someone's attention, it's okay to yell a little. You want to use words that command action. Click, register, go. This example here with the phrase get started, it's telling me what I need to do. I love this form with the strong arrow at the top to register, and you get all the way to the bottom and you register. Another approach to your call to action is to promise a benefit. Get the case study now. If I click, if I give you my information, I am going to get the case study right now. And again, there's this really nice arrow that says, here you go. This is where you point. There are a lot of phrases that you can use, but the one phrase you absolutely should not use is submit. Anything will work better. Submit tends to be the default on most form builders, and so it's very, very common and very, very ineffective. You'll get 10% higher results if you use the word register, and almost 30% better results if you use click here instead of submit. So if you take away only one thing from today's program, it is don't submit. And if you build it, will they come? If you have put this entire program together to get people to come to your website, to get people to fill out these forms, well, the bottom line is not unless you actively promote it. People are not necessarily going to just find your landing pages. And so you need to drive traffic to your landing page. You need to drive from other pages on your website, from social media, from online ads, and even offline promotions. Having a card that you hand out at a networking event that says, go to www.mywebsite/special offer. Keep your URLs short if you're going to do offline promotions. You can use internal links at the bottom of a blog post or an article on your website. Have a link that drives people to a specific landing page. And create social shares. Create graphics that you can put on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn that catch somebody's attention and say, go here. And finally, in today's world, every page on your website is a landing page. In the old days, everybody came to your website and came to your homepage, and then they went somewhere else. And it's important on your homepage to have a specific call to action. But the reality is that a lot of people, and if you are actually paying attention to your website, you're going to see different traffic to different pages on your website that may be as high or higher than your home page. And so what you need to do is you need to go back and put yourself inside the head of a prospective visitor and think, well, what are they going to want if they come here? If they're on my home page, a certain percentage of people are going to want to schedule an appointment. For this flooring company, however, if someone is browsing the gallery, that's a good time to talk to them about scheduling an appointment. Here you've got a number of different images. People are browsing through, they're looking at it. Well, if they found something they like, then yes, schedule an appointment. But maybe they're looking at hardwood flooring and they're comparing lots of different types of hardwood flooring, but you know they have bypassed that schedule. Well, what do you want to offer them? Maybe they just need to know a little bit more about flooring, and so now you offer them a hardwood flooring guide. And maybe they've really dug way into the site and they have found that perfect floor Well, you can offer them an opportunity to mark it as a favorite, or love it, let's get started. The bottom line is that every page on your website should have a conversion point, a logical next step, something someone is going to do after they finish looking at that information. If you want to lead people through your website and you want them to get to the point where they're ready to put their hand up and say, yes, I want to have a conversation with you, you need to have uncluttered pages. You need to really think about your customer journey and make sure that your menus make sense. It is important that every page on your website have good search functionality so that I can just go to the search bar and type in what I'm looking for. And there needs to be clear, logical next steps. I showed you earlier a shorter list of things that you might consider as offers, but really any of these things can be a logical next step. It would be great if every time somebody came to your website, they were ready to buy now or schedule an appointment. But maybe they just need to ask a question or read your frequently asked questions, fill out an assessment, leave a review. Every single page should invite them to do more. It's kind of like those old commercials, those late night infomercials, where you would have a commercial for the Ronco slicer and dicer, and it was great, and then all of a sudden you'd be like, well, I'm not really sure, and they're like, wait, there's more. There's a set of knives, and wait, there's more, and wait, there's more. As you think about people coming to your website, there should always be that, and wait, there's more. And so, what's next? When someone has filled out the form on your website and you have their contact information, what are you going to do? Do you have an auto response campaign that you put them into? A simple email newsletter or follow-up note? Are you going to call them? There needs to be not only logical next steps through your website, but then when somebody takes the time to fill out a form, you need to have your response ready to go. Now's a great time to ask questions if you have them.